Joining us now from Washington is Senator Jim Inhofe, Republican from Oklahoma and a ranking member on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, a member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and in the next Congress, the ranking member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, replacing Senator John McCain. Senator Inhofe, thanks for being here today.
Good to be with you.
Well, let's start with fiscal issues. Is the U.S. about to go over the so-called fiscal cliff?
Well, you know the problem, and I've done this on some shows today, is that we have a president who is obsessed with tax increases. And so what I have done, I've put together something and saying there are a lot of alternatives out there. One is, and I had a bill, it's Senate Bill 3473, where I specifically showed what we could do that would come up with much more than the $1.2 trillion over that period of time. And so there are other options out there. Of course, we all remember, and I'm trying to get people to talk about this now, that the idea that for every 1% increase in the economic activity, that translates into $40 billion of new revenue. And of course, the one who really thought of that in the first place and did it successfully was none other than John F. Kennedy back in the 60s. And then that was followed through with Ronald Reagan. A third thing that I mentioned is let's undo some of the stuff that put us in this position. Keep in mind, and everyone out there should realize, that we had these deficits because of one thing, and that is President Obama. It wasn't the House or the Senate or the Democrats or the Republicans. His actual budget that he put together had $5.3 trillion of deficit in it. So to undo some of those things, I'll just throw out one as an example. Back in the middle 90s, we did very well with a majority in the House and the Senate, and Bill Clinton as a president, we did welfare reform where we put work requirements in. And we went down from 5 million to 3 million families on welfare at that time. Then along came Obama and reversed that, and we've gone up in terms of families that are on food stamps, almost doubled just in the 4 years he's been there. That's just one of the programs that he has done that we could undo. So what I'm saying is there are a lot of ways of doing it without increasing taxes. The Democrats don't like that idea.
Senator, President Obama continues putting pressure on Republicans to raise taxes as a solution. Some Republicans, like Senator Saxby Chambliss and Representative Peter King, say the GOP should put revenue on the table. Given that, as you say, there are other ways around this, what is the fallout for the GOP if Republicans concede on taxes?
Well, first of all, I was surprised to see some of them conceding, because I have not. I made it very clear this morning that I was not conceding at all. So long as we look weak on that, then they've won the battle. And I just think that we have to understand that our problem is spending too much, not taxing too little. And you know, most of the people understand that. All of the Republicans did understand that. So I'm a little disappointed in some of the actions of my fellow Republicans.
Now, you signed Grover Norquist's taxpayer protection pledge. You say you're sticking by it. Are you hearing that even more Republicans will break ranks?
No, I really haven't. We've heard about 5 that are talking about doing it publicly, talking about doing it. There may be others out there. So I came out of the chute saying I am not going to break from that. I made it in all sincerity, and I think once we do that, we open the door to the concept that we really are doing a good job governing, and we don't need to, we're going to have more revenue. The only way to get it is to increase taxes. That's just not true.
Now, this morning on Fox and Friends, you said that President Obama has won on the tax issue in the court of public opinion because maybe he's more persuasive or a better communicator than Republicans. How do Republicans change that? And with a month to go on the fiscal cliff, is it too late at this point?
Well, what I said this morning on Fox and Friends is, yeah, we're not as persuasive as he is. Gretchen asked the question, well, what can you do? And I said, be more persuasive. You know, we have righteousness on our side. The vast majority of people would rather understand that what we're saying is true. And so we just have to be as persuasive as he is. The problem with that is he has the bully pulpit. He can go out anytime he wants, and he has access to the vast majority of the media that doesn't like conservatives. So it's a problem, but we got the right cause, we have the truth, and we should be able to sell our product better.
All right, well, to another issue that I know is important to you, Senator. Today you presented members of Congress with 15,000 petitions demanding that Congress rein in a rogue EPA. You have been critical of the agency for imposing regulations that you and others say are senseless or destroy jobs or hurt our economy. What can Congress do to rein in the EPA?
Well, if you'd asked this question before the election, there's an easy answer. I was in shock that we lost the White House and the Senate. I did not anticipate that that would happen. And I said all the time going up to do that, if you look at the things that this president has done to destroy America, you talk about the deficit, everyone knows about that. We talk about his war on fossil fuels, keeping us from supplying our own energy. People know about that. We talk about his disarming militarily the United States. People know about that. What they don't know is the cost of the regulations. I have the list of regulations that I use. These are 8 regulations that he put off purposely till after the election because people would realize what it's going to cost them. I'm talking about the ozone rule. That would be 650 counties would be out of attainment in the United States. The hydraulic fracturing, very, very clever. He thought he could get by with this thing and saying, oh, I'm all for fossil fuels, I'm for oil, gas, and oil and gas, but we got to do something about hydraulic fracturing. Well, I'm sensitive to that. The first hydraulic fracturing was in my state of Oklahoma, and that was 1949, and there's never been a case of groundwater contamination. But again, they want to regulate that on the federal level instead of the state level so they can do away with it. Their water guidance regulations, the boiler MAC, the cement MAC, all these regulations regulating emissions beyond the point where there's a technology to do that. But the biggest one is the one that I'm probably best known for, and that is I've been the one fighting the lonely battle, at least it was lonely 12 years ago, against those individuals who said that we're having catastrophic global warming. It's because of greenhouse gases, it's because of CO2 and anthropogenic gases. So that didn't answer your question. You said, what can we do about it? We can do all we can to explain the issue, to identify this issue to the American people. Once they hear about it, once they understand it, once they're educated to it, then we can win.
Senator, you've said Ambassador to the UN, Susan Rice, wouldn't be a fitting replacement to Secretary Clinton, who steps down next year. Today, she met with some of her biggest critics, Senators McCain, Ayotte, and Graham. They say they're even more worried than before about her explanation for the September 11th attack in Benghazi. If the administration does nominate her, or if President Obama nominates her, can Republicans put a stop to her confirmation?
Yeah, there was a story this morning in one of the magazines that had a slight misquote on me. I was saying that in the event that she did not have the information, that she was fed just the White House line and believed it, then I can see why she did what she did, starting with the 5 shows that were Sunday shows. Now, so let's assume that she did not have the knowledge of the truth of what the CIA had uncovered. I still would oppose her, because of the way that she's run her office. I mean, she, being the United States ambassador to the United Nations, she has been very consistent, siding with the Palestinians over the Israelis. She has been forcing, I think illegally, putting a lot of the money, of United States money, in UNESCO and the United Nations. And so there are things that she has done that I would oppose her anyway, even if it were not for the Benghazi problem. So I think she would have a hard time getting confirmed in spite of the Benghazi thing.
All right, Senator Jim Inhofe, Republican from Oklahoma. It's always a pleasure having you with us on Newsmax TV. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Kathleen.
And thank you for watching Newsmax TV.